What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. Christian Pedersen, joined by now Eastern League Championship coach Tommy Morris. Also, if you see what Mike McDaniels is up to, the head coach of the Dolphins, Tommy may have some proof.
I started it.
It's better. That's what I'm saying. That's where I was getting. Tommy is indeed the fashion guru of the group, and Mike McDaniels is starting to adopt Tommy's real game day attire. Bodie DeSilva is also joining us on behalf of Scorebook Live. Scorebook Live, the official content provider of all things CIF, and is absolutely the place that you need to check out everything for all of the playoff brackets and scores and updates as those start to come out. Yes, for this show in football in a couple of weeks, but starting this weekend with volleyball, and then going into all the other fall sports that'll be cascading through in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be absolutely a must-have to download that SBLive Sports app. All right, guys, let's talk about some football. We got some game balls to get to. We want to shout out some of the league champions and then get to a couple of the must-watch games from this week. Let's start, though, with game balls and Tommy Morris. Tommy, first, though, congratulations again on your fashion trends being adopted on the NFL level.
I know, man. I don't know what's going on with me on Twitter right now, but it's going well. Anyway, game balls. The first one to go to Castle Park with a 3-pack of game balls here for Sebastian Lozano, Christian Hayes, and Diego Sandoval. Combined 500 total rushing yards and 3 touchdowns in their win versus Mar Vista. We're going to go to Westview after that. Mason Walsh, 303 total yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown against Escondido. Tarek Fisher, Rancho Bernardo, I think one of the most underrated running backs in San Diego, 162 yards and 2 touchdowns in a win over Fallbrook. And finally, Quinton Demara, University City, over 400 total yards, 3 passing touchdowns in their win over Scripps.
Thank you for that, Tommy. Bodie, if you got any game balls, let's get to those. If not, let's get to the league champions that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, a couple game balls there. I had Demara as well. I'm glad for University City able to get that first win of the season. Brendan Lewis from Granite Hills, standout baseball player, Arizona State commit, has really had a great year as a receiver. In their win over Steel Canyon, 8 catches, 130 yards, and 3 touchdown receptions. 2 guys from Mount Miguel, Matthew Barton and Paris Vernon, both had huge nights. Barton threw for 6 touchdown passes. Vernon was on the receiving end of 2 of them. Ty Olson from Del Norte, they have 2 big games coming up if they want to win their league title, but 6 catches, 145 yards, and 2 touchdowns in their win over Mount Carmel. And then finishing it off with Charlie Hutchison from Mission Bay, 6 of 6 passing, 135 yards, 3 touchdowns, also ran for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns on 10 carries. So we've talked about Mission Bay a lot, but just impressive stuff from all these basketball guys coming out in year 1 and performing.
Well, and let's then lop in also baseball guys, because Brendan Lewis is not football. Like, no offense, man, you're a baseball player. Like, that's what you're at. That's what.
No, a 4-year baseball player at Granite Hills too. Like, from day 1, he has been a guy. So
absolutely, I believe wasn't his freshman year the extra innings CIF championship game.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, to be a middle infielder and closer from your first day on campus, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so no offense, but you're a baseball player. So yeah, baseball and basketball players, the multi-sport dudes having their renaissance moment, if you will. Bodie, let's talk about the league champions. Now, you have these kind of divided into 2 categories, if you will. Those are the ones that have actually already mathematically won it, and ones that are in that 90+ percentile confidence index that they're going to win it based off of what they have left. So let's get to maybe some of the ones that you for sure, like, yes, La Jolla, Eastern League champs. Congratulations. Let's talk about some of those, and then we'll get to your hypothetical but most likely champions.
Yeah, I always try not to step on toes, because some people, the way they call clinching a title, whether it's sharing a title, that head-to-head, obviously in La Jolla's case, the 2 teams with 1 losses, they were the ones that gave them that. So those 2 games remaining, Patrick Henry and Christian, for an outright undefeated league title. We'll go that way there. Lincoln has also clinched that. Lincoln's in a weird position where they're going to have their bye in week 11. So they'll close out the regular season this week. If they beat University City, that'll be a 2nd straight undefeated Western League title. Huge deal there for them. Scripps and Mission Bay is one where they're both undefeated in the city league right now. Likely comes down to their matchup there in week 11 to decide that title. So that's a fun one. Anytime come down to the final week and decide that, I enjoy that. Bishops and Santa Fe Christian, both undefeated in the Coastal. Same thing there. If Bishops can beat Parker, that will be decided in that final week. Carlsbad, if they win over El Camino, they'll clinch a share. if Torrey Pines were to lose to Poway, that would be an outright title there for Carlsbad. I believe that would be their 5th straight league title, which in the Avocado League, huge deal. And they've had the luxury of having 2 different Sayan brothers at quarterback, which certainly helps there. Granite Hills and Helix, they're going to play this Friday, a game that'll decide the Grossmont Hills title. Last year, they played in the same situation. That game went to 4 overtimes. I will be at this one this week, really looking forward to it. Coming in, they've combined to win 25 games in a row. So this is a huge deal this week. Central and Brawley, I expect they'll both get by their opponents this week. So that game in week 11 will decide the Imperial League title. And then Del Norte and San Marcos, that's going to come down to the final week as well to decide the Palomar League title there. So still a handful that are still up in the air. I know in the non-open division, getting that league title gets you that playoff spot, the home game, all that stuff. So certainly some things that need to be worked out, and hopefully week 11 leads to a lot of really interesting games.
When it also seems like for some of those teams, winning that league title is that validation, is that first step toward their ultimate goal. Yes, always every team wants to be a championship caliber, but you certainly feel like some of the teams right now who could be lining themselves up to win one, unlike Carlsbad and their sustained dominance, this one could scratch that itch, get the monkey off their back, and get the program turned around in the right way, like you talked about Del Norte and some of the other schools that didn't close out super strong. You mentioned a game, though, and that is, well, Tommy, first off, any thoughts, reflections, comments, concerns on league champs before we go to games?
No, I mean, I think what's cool about what Bodie just mentioned is a lot of these are going to be decided on the field. So we're not going to have to be scoreboard watching if you're those teams. You get to actually play for it and, winner take all. So I love seeing those scenarios.
It certainly does seem like we have a couple of those lining up. One of them being, like Bodie mentioned, Helix, Granite Hills. Guys, I'm curious your thoughts on this game, because this has to be the biggest, or at least most important iteration of this rivalry of all time. And it feels like very rarely do we get 2 schools who both have been going up and down, but ultimately are peaking. It feels like maybe at the same time, in the same place, with undefeated, like a lot of descriptive adjectives. So Bodie, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think for Helix, they have kind of been on a mission this year. Last year, they lost this game at home in 4 overtimes. Then their next game ended up being the playoff game against El Camino. I was at that one. They didn't come up big at the end. El Camino lost. They've kind of come into this year with a lot of experience, a 4-year starting quarterback, some really experienced weapons, and they've been on this roll. They've played up in NorCal. They've played neutral site. They've kind of been all over. And I certainly think they've had this game circled. I was glad to see both teams last week. Like, no one let up. I think they were both 40, 50 point wins. So neither of them were looking ahead. And then from Granite's point of view, to have won a state title and still come back, you got a new freshman quarterback, and to kind of pick up to be on that 17-game winning streak is really impressive. I thought Granite would be good. I didn't know if they'd be this dominant once again, and they really have been. So huge game. I think for sure the regular season game of the year in the county, because we're not going to see any Lincoln Carlsbad matchup until a possible final, it looks like. So this is one that I've had circled, and I'm glad to see both are undefeated leading into this one.
Tommy Morris, your thoughts?
Yeah, so for Granite Hills, Turner and Jackson's not the same guy. Turner and Jackson combined for over 1,100 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns so far this season. Parker Vance defensively has 4 touchdowns. Granite, an extremely well-rounded team. I think last year surprised a lot of people when they beat Helix, but this year it's going to be a toss-up game. I don't think anyone will be surprised no matter who ends up winning this game. For Helix, Kevin Allen III, 59 more yards, and he crosses the century mark there. So I expect that to happen. He's already got 16 rushing touchdowns. And then Jackson Daniels has 8 receiving touchdowns. Helix, also very well-rounded. This is kind of like Bodie said, like, beginning of the year, we circled this. Hopefully these 2 teams are undefeated coming into this, because that'd be awesome. Make for a great regular season game. We got it. As a lot of open division implications as well. This is a huge game, not only for their league, but for playoff seeding. I like Granite Hills in this one. I think it'll be, I don't know, 4 overtimes, maybe 3 overtimes, but it's going to be about as close as possible, about as close as last year. And again, the expectations for Granite were kind of hazy with having a freshman quarterback and all that stuff, but they have looked good. They have not lost a beat, given all the guys they lost. They had a bunch coming back too, so I like the Eagles.
Well, let me ask this then. Is the winner of this game able to say that this win is enough of a test that they can say, hey, we can actually compete with Carlsbad or Lincoln this year, and expands you to say, hey, there are actually 3 teams really?
I think it depends how, if it ends up being lopsided, then yes. If it's a 50-50 toss-up game, then there's still going to be, there's team 1A, 1B, and then team 2. So I'm not going to say that neither of these teams can compete with those two at the top, because I think they can. But I don't think that that game would be perceived as being a 50-50 toss-up game.
Take one team blow, granted, it's got to blow the doors off of Helix or vice versa for you to invest in that narrative. Okay, fair enough. Bodie?
Yeah, I think from my point of view, last year, going into that, and now that we kind of have a pretty good idea that what the Final Four or the 4 open division teams are going to be. Last year, we saw a Poway team that was undefeated, but really hadn't been tested, and a Madison team that wasn't playing their best going in. I think Helix and Granite definitely give a better test, whatever that bracket ends up being. That's the fun part at this point, because we really don't know 1 through 4. We just know who the 4 will be. And I've tried to think about it this week. I don't really know who I would kind of favor to be a better matchup against the 2, but I think, as Tommy said, if either of these teams can kind of make a really big statement here come Friday, then you'd have a better idea. Okay, maybe they can match up, whether it be Lincoln or Carlsbad that they would be taking on.
Fair enough. I can dig it. Next game that we got on the slate is Del Norte at Ramona. Ramona, always a tough place to play. Del Norte, though, seems like they are hell-bent on making a name for themselves this year and not wading too deep into their brand new coach's tenure to turn the ship around and become a really successful and competitive program. 5-2 right now. Curious your guys' thoughts on this game. Bodie DeSilva, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think from Del Norte's point of view, they played last Thursday. They beat Mount Carmel. I think they probably would have liked to have won by a little more just based on previous numbers. But yeah, it's certainly going to be a tough battle going up at Ramona. I've been to those games up there before. Very rarely do communities kind of care and kind of shut down when games are going on and surround the team like that. I'm going to go with Del Norte here. I think it's going to set up perfectly for that week 11 matchup against them in San Marcos, winner take all in the Palomar League. And I think Del Norte's been tested early on. They played Torrey Pines, they played La Costa Cane, and they've seen these big battles and what it's going to take to win big games. So I like Del Norte to come through in this one.
Tommy Morris, your thoughts?
Speaking on Del Norte, Jack Snyder, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in San Diego, 15 passing touchdowns, and 4 rushing. 10 of those passing touchdowns goes to Ty Olson. We talked about him a bunch. A lot of defense is keying on him, and he's still having a great season. So there's pretty much nothing anyone's been able to figure out to stop Ty Olson. Ramona coming off a tough loss to San Marcos, I believe 27-0 off the top of my head. I like Del Norte in this one, but as Bodie said, there's very few places that are like a hostile environment where the whole city, town, whatever you want to call it, comes to the games. Ramona's one of them. So it'll be a fun atmosphere for both teams, but I like Del Norte.
Bodie, you brought up one of these games, so I'm going to jump one ahead to the final game that we have. We'll get back to our third game, and that is San Marcos and Rancho Bernardo. You want San Marcos, you said, to meet in that Palomar League winner take all. So I'm assuming that tips your vote in this game, but we will start with you anyway. Your thoughts on San Marcos, Rancho Bernardo?
Yeah, I certainly don't think it's a given at all. San Marcos has to go at Rancho Bernardo. Rancho Bernardo has kind of been up and down, I think, so far this year and not too much of a surprise in year one for Eric Weddle's group there. They were 3-1, then they lost 3 in a row, including that 4 overtime game against Del Norte. They went up to Ramona and lost. They bounced back last week with Fallbrook. So I certainly give them a chance in this game. I like the way San Marcos has been playing after kind of adversity of losing their quarterback with an injury early on. And I don't know the exact prognosis on when he can be expected back. But with that said, going and shutting out Ramona last week was really impressive. So the way I think San Marcos has responded defensively will help them. And that's why I like them at Rancho Bernardo this week. It
certainly does seem like they have some big guys up front who are starting to blossom later in the season. Tommy Morris, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Rancho Bernardo also with a different starting quarterback coming this week. So both teams sort of on quarterback too, even though San Marcos has been dealing with that situation for a long time. And a guy like Jason Nix, who already has 11 touchdown receptions, it seems like they've lost not really much. I mean, they've done a good job of replacing who is one of the best quarterbacks in San Diego and making it still work. Like I mentioned him in the open, Tarek Fisher, one of the best running backs in San Diego, over 1,000 yards already. What is an encouraging sign for San Marcos is they were able to shut down Ramona's offense, which is heavy on the run, just like RB's offense is heavy on the run. So I like San Marcos here just because it's a similar thing where they just got to be tough and stop the run and good things will happen. And That's why I'm going with San Marcos.
Yeah, just one last to add on San Marcos. Bradley Jenkins, who stepped in as their quarterback, last 3 games, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So as Tommy said, he's kind of come in and knows exactly what he's doing now.
Let's go. I like that. 10-0 on the ratio there is as good as it can possibly get. Last game,
infinity.
We'll go out to the infinity. He's got the infinity ratio. Stop now, retire, hang him up. Last game we got is West Hills at Steel Canyon. This game, an opportunity for a much needed win for both of these sides. It feels like in terms of trying to set themselves up for the best playoff seeding that they can hope for. Tommy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, West Hills with one of the bigger wins of the season coming against El Cap. Steel Canyon beat El Cap also, but it was closer in the scoreboard. Said, I like Steel Canyon in this one. Jonathan Sabian over 1,000 yards rushing already, 12 touchdowns already. Steel, I think, by a few touchdowns, but West Hills doing a great job this year. I think a lot of people had low expectations for them, but they've exceeded them.
Bodie DeSilva from Scorebook Live, your thoughts?
Yeah, and this is a Saturday game for anyone that's kind of looking for something you want to get to if you're not watching any college football, like myself that tries to watch 15 hours every Saturday. But for me in this game, yeah, I like Steel Canyon. Obviously they're coming off a really tough loss against the Granite Hills team that has been like that against everyone Granite Hills has played seemingly for the last 2 years. So I like Steel Canyon. They've posted over 40 points a few times this year, and I think offense will lead them to their win here.
Steel Canyon, every year there's 1 or 2 schools that qualify for that discussion of like really good sub 500 team. And I think Steel Canyon might be with Cathedral right now as like best sub 500 team in all of San Diego. But that is a different discussion for a different show that we can do once the season is all over. Guys, anything else that we got to get to this week?
Nope, I think we're good.
We'll be next week? We'll be a couple days away from brackets coming out. So
yes.
And everyone will agree on those, by the way, and the whole system and everything. There will be no arguing at all.
Yeah, whether it's computers or a committee, whatever, no one ever has a problem.
Nope, totally perfect.
Peace be with all of you. As Will Smith says, mentions off. All righty, folks. Until then, we'll talk to you guys next time.